Joined now by Tim May of 97.1 The Fan, Letterman Row, along with Joey Kaufman of the Columbus Dispatch. And Tim, I have been asked this question so much since the Clemson game. Everybody wants to know, how healthy is Justin Fields? How bad was that rib injury? And let me just say this. They're playing it pretty close to the vest. Fields seemed pretty good on the interviews the other day. I know there was some video posted on a live Instagram that showed him playing ping pong, and he looked pretty good there. What are you hearing, and is he going to be okay to go?
Well, I asked Ryan Day about him in the last teleconference we had with Ryan Day and Nick Saban, and he said he's been practicing. He's been practicing okay the last several days. You know, all you can do is take people's word for things right now until these guys take the field. I fully expect Justin Fields to start the game and finish the game. If my honest opinion, from what I've heard and stuff, he's got to deal with some pain, but he's got to probably deal with some hangover pain from that situation that hit in the lower ribs for a month or two. Bottom line is he's getting one shot at a national championship, and I expect him to take it.
Joey, the other question I have received all week, and I'm sure you and Tim have had too, people want to know about how healthy this team is. Of course, there were rumors that they may not have enough players to play because of COVID. Ohio State, Ryan Day said, we have plenty of players, but we still don't know who's out because of COVID. What are you hearing on that front?
Well, Ryan Day said on, I believe it was Thursday, that they're going to have enough players to play, as you mentioned. And there isn't a question about this game going off. And we're not going to find really a concrete answer from Ohio State until close to kickoff time. That's when they release the availability report where they detail which players will definitely be out. But it could impact them, especially if you have a case where multiple starters would be out or any key players, because you're going to want to have depth. You're going to want to be able to rotate on defense. You're going to want to bring different guys at Alabama's offense and create some pressure. So if you're not having a couple key players, even if they're not a starter or even if they're a backup, you want to be able to hopefully rotate guys and get them in the mix as well. So I think that's where potentially they could have issues.
Tim, on the other side, Alabama, there's a little bit of intrigue involving their receiver, Jalen Waddle. It's going to be a game-time decision. What do you expect? I'd be a little surprised if he does play. I know you can only get one shot at a national title and all that business, but he's coming off an injury, and this guy has a chance to make a lot of money in the NFL.
Yeah, latest today seemed to indicate that he has worked out some, but how full go he is, as Nick Saban even said today, as late today, that's going to be a game time decision. Kind of makes you wonder, how really close he is to playing. I would think he's like 50-50 maybe at the best, just like Ohio State. I mean, Mayan Williams, who was the backup running back for Ohio State against Clemson, tweeted the other night that he didn't get to make the trip. You expect Tommy Togiai, from everything you're hearing, probably is not going to play in this game, and perhaps Tyreek Smith. But, you never know until these teams take the field who is and isn't with you.
Joey, I'm on record. I think Ohio State can run the football against anyone. I think they can run the ball against Alabama. I think they can play smash mouth against these guys, and I think that will only open up the passing game. With that said, Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson, are they licking their chops?
I don't know if they're licking their chops, but I think they see some opportunities, because this is still a good Alabama defense, but it's a defense that has been exposed before. It gave up 46 points to Florida, gave up 40-plus points to Ole Miss. So there are certainly some cracks in the foundation, especially in the secondary, and their tendency to give up the deep ball. They've given up 11 plays of 40 yards or more this season. So they have some things I think Ohio State can come in and exploit. They've had issues covering tight ends. Well, in the last game of the Sugar Bowl, Ohio State was able to get in the end zone 3 times through Jeremy Rucker and Luke Farrell, their tight ends. So there are a couple matchups I think worth watching.
Yeah, if you can protect Justin Fields, you can throw the ball on these guys. That's without a doubt.
Tim, write the headline for me this. Trey Sermon, he came on at Michigan State, then lit up Northwestern, a record-setting day, continued against Clemson. What do you expect out of him tomorrow night?
Sermon uses bully pulpit to deliver message. His bully pulpit is the Ohio State offensive line, which dominated as the game went along against Clemson. You wanted a headline, so I gave you that one. bottom line is I expect him to play extremely well. He's got confidence. He's got a rhythm with his frontline group. He's got patience when he runs the ball. He runs through any arm tackle. At least so far, he just looks like a totally different back than he did 5 games ago.
You know, Joey, I agree with Tim. I think if they keep, and I think the line will protect Justin Fields. I think it's going to be a big night for Olave and Garrett Wilson. How active do you think those guys will be?
Huge, because if you're going to have success moving the ball against Alabama, you want to be able to take some shots downfield and get some explosive plays, and that's a vulnerability for them. And it was where Ohio State was really able to turn the Clemson game into this back and forth 14-14 game in the second quarter into a track meet and end up leading by 3 or 4 touchdowns, because you can capitalize on some big plays, and it turns maybe a slugfest into a little bit more of a game in your favor just by Justin Fields can throw it 50 yards and Chris Olave can run downfield and catch it.
Tim, taking COVID out of the mix, I give the edge when it comes to the two defenses to Ohio State. My question to you is, do we believe at this point the Ohio State silver bullets have finally arrived, given the performance we saw against Clemson? Now, Clemson had some points and they moved the ball, but Ohio State's defense still had the stops. And if you can make stops against these teams, I think you win the day.
You know, what you've seen from the Ohio State defense the last several games is the more the game goes on, they do tighten up the bolts, so to speak. And I know Joey agrees with me on that. You know, people start jumping off the ship, you know, early in these games because, you know, when you're playing for a Big Ten championship and a college football playoff semifinal and then a college football championship game, the other team is pretty damn good too. And they're going to have some things. But this defense, I think, the last several games has shown the ability to adjust as the game goes on. They're not going to shut out Alabama. If they shut out Alabama, Dom, I'll buy you a steak. But the bottom line is I think they're going to make enough plays to be in this ball game. And that's all, you know, even if you're missing some guys in the middle of that defense or on the edges, you know, they still got some other guys. They're just, you know, prepping to step in, as Joey said, and carry on. And I really think this, you know, without a doubt on both of these teams, the defense is not the best they've ever seen at the two schools, but the offenses might be arguably the best they've seen at these two schools. That's why it could be a really wild affair on Monday night.
You know, Joey, I'm hoping Ohio State's defense shuts them down. I want a New York strip. With that said, Alabama can run the ball, can throw the ball, may be the best offense that they've ever had down there, as Tim said. With that said, you're Kerry Combs. As a defensive coordinator, you always try to make a team one-dimensional. If you're Combs, what do you try to shut down at Alabama, and is that even possible?
I don't know if you can shut down Alabama, but as Tim said, you don't have to shut down Alabama to win this game. You just have to limit their touchdowns to a point where you can outscore them, because this is going to be like one of those 2016, 2017 Alabama-Clemson game where it's a heavyweight fight and they go back and forth. Where if you're Kerry Combs, you want to go for is you want to maybe get some pressure on Mac Jones. He's protected by one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in the country, been sacked 9 times in 12 games. You're not going to be able to stay with Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle and all those playmakers forever. But if you can get to Mac Jones quickly and they can get rid of the ball early, that's where I think you could really limit their passing game and give yourself a chance.
Yeah, Dom, in this situation, if you could shut down, make Najee Harris not a threat running the ball, I mean, on a consistent basis like they did to Travis Etienne a week and a half ago, and then jam their receivers at the line a little bit just so they can't get off on those quick routes. That's where Alabama really kills you. Mac Jones, this offense is built on catching the ball and getting rid of it. And if you can Mac Jones have to stand there, like Joey said, where your defensive line can get to him a little bit, it could be a totally different game. The problem is no one has been able to do that. Notre Dame did it a little bit, which is interesting, but no one's been able to do that on a consistent basis.